Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to go to BrewDog up in Aberdeenshire once again, and it's a very special time of year for BrewDog because this is when they release the Mashtag beer, and I always enjoy this beer every year. So we're going to do the 2015 one today. 2013 of course gave you a lovely American brown ale, 2014 was an Imperial Red, and this year we have a US hopped Imperial Black Barley wine. And of course all the Mashtag beers, every aspect of the beer is voted for on Twitter by fans of the brewery. So it's a democratic beer, that's how they like to market it, but they're always really excellent beers. BrewDog seem to make a particularly special effort with this, and they always taste great, so very much looking forward to doing the tasting section of this video for you today. But anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about BrewDog. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. The brewery website's in the video description for you below, along with a link that will take you to my other BrewDog reviews I've done before. It's about 50 or so of them now, but I'll also add to that in the fairly near future. Please like the Facebook page for the channel, and also feel free to add me as a friend on Untappd if you do have a profile there. But anyway, to tell you about BrewDog, this brewery of course is the love child of two guys, James Watt and Martin Dickey, and the brewery was founded in 2007 at a small brewery in the Keswick Industrial Estate in Fraserburgh in the very northeast corner of Scotland, right on the tip of the monster's nose as I like to describe it. But more recently, back in 2012, they moved their main brewing operations down to their new and purpose-built facility in Ellon, which is a little bit closer to the city of Aberdeen in northeastern Scotland. But these guys are very well known for being quite an experimental brewery, and particularly as well for their strong beers. They held the title of World's Strongest Beer on 3 separate occasions, but they're largely inspired by the American craft brewing renaissance and Californian beers in particular. James and Martin actually all say that their main influence on beer was in fact Stone Brewing from San Diego, and they've done a collaboration with these guys actually, but they've got several brew pubs throughout the UK. These began opening back in 2009 with their Aberdeen one, which was one of my regular haunts when I was at university up there, but they've expanded throughout the rest of Scotland now, down into England, and they do have international sites as well. I believe it's Norway, Sweden, Finland, also some in Italy, Japan, Brazil, and I think they're actually starting to open up a few in North America as well. They've very recently announced that they're opening a second brewery in Columbus, Ohio, so keep your eye open for that. But these guys are the largest independently owned Scottish craft brewery today, and they've grown a hell of a lot since their inception back in 2007. But what is particularly cool about this brewery is the equity for punk scheme, and this is where fans of the brewery like you and me can buy shares in the brewery, and essentially you swap your shares for when you buy your share you're given a lifetime's discount in the shop and in the bars, and this helps them fund their infrastructure investments like new bars and the second brewery over in Columbus, and indeed the first one in Ellon in Aberdeenshire were funded through this equity for punk scheme. So BrewDog are very, very cool in that regard, so do check out their website and have a read about the brewery. Some very, very interesting stuff goes on from these guys, but they've got a small core range of 6 or 7 different beers, but they always brew different ones like this that you can only get one off, so there's a lot of interesting stuff comes out of BrewDog every year, so keep an eye on the website and you will get an idea of everything that's going on there. But anyway, let's get on to the actual tasting section of this beer. So as I told you, the Mashtag beers is when they basically release one of these every year. 2013 was an American brown ale, and 2014 ended up being an Imperial Red, and the last one, 2014, was a beautiful beer, but so was 2013. But what happens is that BrewDog basically put out a vote, 5 different votes over 5 days, and what you vote for on Twitter is you vote for a style of beer, a sub-style, and then a malt base on the second day. On the third day you'll vote for the IBU and the hop content, and then you'll also vote for a twist and then for the label. So what they actually voted for this beer was a barley wine. Then they voted for a 10% black barley wine, which was hopped with US hops, Columbus, Centennial, Simcoe, Nugget and Williamette, and these were from the US. They wanted 100 IBUs in this beer. The next thing came the malt bill, which was a malt base of pale caramel and carafa, and there was a twist of vanilla and oak chips added to this one. So it's like there's a lot of things going to be going on in this beer, so very excited to try it. So as I say, 10% barley wine ale, it's got 5 different American hops in it, 100 IBUs, it's got a malt base of pale carafa and caramels, and it's got a twist of vanilla pods and oak chips in this one, so it should be an awesome beer. So just to read the blurb that's on the side of this one, it says, Mashtag, a beer for the people, by the people. The concept is simple. We ask you what beer you would like and you answer, from hops and malt to a special twist and the label artwork. Each stage of the Mashtag is decided upon by you, the BrewDog fans. For 2015, the pick of the polls was a 10% barley wine brewed with 5 different American hops, vanilla beans and a toasted oak chips, and a label designed by Mark Green. So as a result, this year's Mashtag is rich and resonant with layers of complexity. The deep roasty chocolate base from the malt is intertwined with deep vanilla before giving way to a herbal and pine edge with a high alpha hop. The finish is long, extremely warming and heavy in the weight of beery egalitarianism. Mashtag, democracy in liquid form. So looks very nice, and the artwork on this one's actually quite interesting. I think it looks a little bit like a kind of black metal album, this, so it's quite cool actually. A lot of metalhead guys that I know do like BrewDog, so they'll be particularly pleased with this label that's on this one. And you can see it's one of the newer standard BrewDog bottle caps on this one. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this guy. So as I told you, it comes in at 10%. It's a black barley wine ale with a lot of different US hops and some nice malt bases in there too. The vanilla is going to add a really interesting component to the flavour here. So let's see how we get on with this guy. And you can actually smell the vanilla and a little bit of the chocolate as you pour this beer. So yeah, looks very, very nice as you pour it out. I'll just bring up the light and let you see the exact colour of this. But it's come out a really nice kind of dark ebony sort of rosewoody colour. If I hold it up to the light, it actually doesn't even have a ruby edge to it. It is almost completely black, and it's got a finger of a frothy kind of beigey tan head on it there, but not even a ruby edge to it. So that's very interesting. Probably the best way to describe that then is an ebony colour. If I hold it under the light, even if I hold it right up there, no ruby edge to it at all, not even, just a very, very faint glimmer, nothing really at all. But this beer smells incredible. There's a whole host of fruit in this one, but you've got the typical barley malt, barley wine elements to it as well. So you've got a huge malty character, which is exactly what you would expect from this style of beer. You've got a big treacle and molasses element coming out of this. Some sweeter caramel too, but you can pick out a little bit of chocolate and vanilla coming out, and some woody elements as well. But what's more prominent in the aroma is the kind of fruity characters of the beer. There's a bit of aromatic notes, which is what you're going to get from the Centennial hop. Centennial always gives you this nice kind of florally and aromatic character to the beer. Very popular in American sort of West Coast beers actually. But there's a good bit of tropical fruit in there, and I want to say it's a kind of passion fruity and maybe slightly apricot-y note. And you'll get that out of the hops that they've put into this beer. It's the Simcoe that will give you that nice kind of tropical-y note. And there's a good bit of kind of pine resin. You can pick up the pine resin from this one. And I think that's also the Simcoe that will give you that in this beer. Simcoe will give you a nice, slightly piney resin. You can pick that up quite nicely in this beer. But there's also a little bit of an earthy character, and I think that's the Williamette that will give you that. And you can pick up the herbal aspects of the beer too. And the herbal aspects of the beer is probably kind of a bit of the nugget hop, I think. And probably some of the Simcoe, I think, can give you a herbal element too. But there's a lot of stuff going on in this one. The most prominent component of the aroma, as I say, is the fruity characters, but you can pick up the nice typical barley wine elements, a bit of sweeter caramel, some darker kind of treacle molasses in there, and there's a bit of vanilla and woody element with some chocolate as well. Chocolate, I don't remember getting so much chocolate from barley wines before, but some of them do have it. But the vanilla, the sort of vanilla twist that you get in this is nice, and the woody notes as well is an interesting twist. But some nice hoppy characteristics of this beer too. So a very interesting aroma. Just take a little bit of time to smell it before you actually go on to taste the beer. But without further ado, let's get stuck into this one. So this is Mashtag 2015 from BrewDog in Ellon in Aberdeenshire in Scotland. Slàinte. And I tell you something, every year Mashtag is worth the wait, and it has been once again. This is beautiful. It's quite different from any other barley wine I've tried, but it is a beautiful beer. As you always should do with beer tastings, just sugar the beer around your mouth a little bit, and that lets your whole mouth adjust to the flavours. So I would be guessing with this, with it being a black barley wine, I was expecting it to be a bit darker and roastier, and that's exactly what it is. With this beer, as you would expect with the barley wine style, you've got a huge kind of dark roasted caramel malty character in this one. The roasted element in it is really quite pronounced, and you'll feel that kind of roasted dry bitterness building on the middle of your palate. But yeah, down the middle of your tongue you can pick up a little bit of caramel sweetness, but most of the caramel flavours in this beer, they are actually very roasted. That's the carafa malt coming out of this actually, and you'll pick that up just in the middle of your tongue. You get the dip of your tongue right in the middle, right down the middle of the palate, but as your tongue starts to kind of come up in this shape, it's just on that kind of curve of the tongue that you'll pick up these nice roasted carafa flavours in there. But there's a good bit of dark treacle and molasses in there too that just blends together, but the slightly roasted, slightly kind of coffee-ish dark roasted caramel malts are very nice in this beer. Underneath that though, you can pick up a little bit of the kind of pale malt base in this, and that just blankets the middle of the tongue. It's almost like the other parts of the flavour are just on top of that, so you've got this pale malt base in there that works really quite well, and you can pick up the woody elements and the vanilla flavours, particularly in the middle of the tongue towards the back. They're definitely in there, and they blend together very well. The woodiness and the vanilla seem to go between the bready part of the beer and that roasted caramel, slightly coffee-ish flavour that are in the middle of the tongue there, but very, very nice. But the hoppy characters of this beer blend together very, very well. Of course, it's around the edge of the palate where you get these hoppy flavours. At the very back corners of the palate, you're getting a nice, slightly earthy character from the hops, and that's the Williamette hop in particular coming out. So it's just very earthy at the very back corners of your tongue there, and that builds a good base between these roasted, bitter, kind of coffee-ish caramel notes, and you get this nice roasted bitter character, and that just builds a good bridge between the edge of the palate where the hoppy flavours come out and that nice dark roasted malt base. As you move a bit further forward, you've got a very interesting blend of things going on. You can pick up a little bit of the kind of grassy aromatic flavours, and that's the Williamette and the Centennial hop coming out a bit more. But there's an underlying pine characteristic in there coming from the Simcoe too, and you'll feel that as you move more towards the front of your tongue. The drier characteristics of the piney resin and the aromatic character comes out as you get round to that front sort of curve of your palate, and the grassy elements of the flavour are just on the very edges of your tongue. A very, very nice little component of the flavour there. But the juicier, fruity aspects of this beer, you'll get this little oily bubble behind the very front curve, the very kind of front curve of your tongue there. You'll get a nice oily character, and that's where a lot of these tropical fruits are coming out. So I think you're getting a kind of quite a strong passion fruit element there. It doesn't quite have the sourness of the grapefruit, and there's probably a little bit of maybe slightly apricot or something coming in there. And what's interesting about this beer, as you just let it settle, you can pick out some of the herbal characters, and that's the nugget and a bit of the Simcoe hop coming out too. That comes out a bit more in the aftertaste, I would say. Yeah, that works. This beer just works so well together. You've got two different extremes. It almost, in a way, this beer does remind me a little bit of some of the black IPAs, but it's different to that. The malt base makes it more of a barley wine, but it does remind me like of some of the black IPAs I've had. The nice fruity character, but then the nice dark malt base, but definitely a barley wine just because of the caramel presence in it, I would say. And of course the boozy warmth as well, but the juicy flavours in this beer are quite nice. There is a bit of a kind of red fruity ester flavour in it too, but it is quite a tropical one. I definitely want to say it's passion fruit and maybe a little bit of apricot in there too, and that's what you get from the Simcoe hop really. The Simcoe hop is quite a complex one. It contributes a lot to the flavour, but there's a whole host of flavours going on in this beer. So as I said, really nice malt base in there, bit of vanilla and woody characteristic infused into it, some dry roasted bitter character from the caramel and the sort of treacle molasses flavours, and also the kind of carafa malt, a slightly coffee-ish flavour, a bit of earthy hoppiness in the back corners of the palate. You can feel the smoother grassy and aromatic characters as you come forward. It's more grassy on the sides of the tongue, but as you get to the front curve, you've got a bit of the drier and more intense sort of aromatic and piney resin flavours, and you'll feel the juicy and fruity characteristics coming out just behind the very front of the tongue. A nice passion fruity, slightly apricot flavour in there. There's a whole host of stuff going on in this beer, and it definitely was worth the wait. Very well voted on by these guys that did it on Twitter. Beautiful, beautiful beer. But in terms of the mouth feel of this one, definitely full bodied, quite a smooth carbonation to this. It's a little bit oily too, but it's a very rich beer, this. Not quite as kind of syrupy as you would expect from a barley wine, I would say, and that's mainly because of the carafa malt, the slightly roasted, treacly and coffee aspects to the flavour of the beer. There's a lot of roasty bitterness in this beer, particularly in the aftertaste. There's a good bit of juicy fruit character behind the very front of the tongue too, but around the edges of your palate you'll get a bit of hoppy dryness too, and there is a little bit of alcohol warmth comes out it as well. So this is a beautiful, beautiful beer. Actually one of the best ones I've tried from BrewDog, in fact. And so yeah, it's an awesome one, and if you do get the chance to try it, I would definitely give it a go, because it's one of the best ones I've reviewed from BrewDog. So I hope you'll take my advice on that one. I've reviewed about 50 BrewDog beers, and I can tell you something, the Mashtag beer never disappoints. The Paradoxes never disappoint, and neither do the Mashtags. These are probably the two best beer series that BrewDog do, and Hello My Name is beautiful normally as well. So very, very good ones. I like these kind of one-off series that they do every year, and hopefully Mashtag 2016 is another one to look forward to, and I'm sure it will be. But check out this beer if you do get the chance. I hope you've enjoyed this BrewDog beer review. As always, let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. I always love reviewing BrewDog beer. Hopefully they'll actually sponsor me when I'm in Sweden so I can still review all their beers for you, because I really do enjoy doing them. But as I say, let me know in the comment section your own thoughts on this beer if you do happen to have tried it before. Until my next review, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this one, and until the next one, slàinte for now. Cheers.